Hey everybody, wanted to talk about Lab 11/12 for the College University course on um, sprites and textures and getting pictures into your SFML projects. So I'm going to close my Lab 11. I'm going to create a new project called SFML project right there. Make sure it's saved in a smart spot with no weird spaces or anything like that. Looks all good to me. Finish. And there we go. I've got my basic SFML project, a green circle on the screen. Great. I'm going to delete all of that code for the green circle. It's going to crash because look, it doesn't know what shape is anymore because we don't have one. So I'm just going to comment that out because I do want to use a draw command, but it's not going to be a circle this time. It's actually going to be something called a sprite. So there's a sprite class or variable type in SFML. I'll just call mine sprite1 with a little name like that. Okay. And what it's going to do is it's going to, I can draw that now actually. It's going to draw a image on the screen, but Sprite1. I haven't set the image or anything, so it will draw nothing, which is understandable. And the way I get my image is I have to actually find an image online. So I'll type like video game sprite or something like that. Just get a cool picture. There's things called sprite sheets where we can use them to animate and all that stuff, but for now, let's just find something cool that we can save. And I think it's best if it's a PNG file, because then we get the transparency in the background. So look at this sad guy. We'll download him, because he's got this nice transparency in the background, which is good because we have a black background on our file right now. This guy's kind of cool too though. I might get this guy. Oh, he's huge. He's 900 by 800. That's a bit too big. This guy's really big too. So we'll shrink him down. I'm going to save him. So right click, save image as, and here's where I need to save it. I need to save it in the same folder that my project is saved in. That way, so I'm going to go find my Lab 12 project and I'm going to save this. Now this is a really bad name for a image file just because I'm going to have to type this in, right? So I'm just going to call it image1.png or something like that. Okay? And now, once I have that, I make a variable type called texture, and I'll call it texture1, and that is how I'm going to load that picture into my sprites. First thing I'm going to do is see what commands I have available on my texture variable, texture1. I'm going to hit dot. If you're not auto-typing, like if your code blocks isn't auto-typing with all these commands when you hit the period button, just right-click on your project and click on reparse this project. What it does when it reparses is it goes through these two includes and finds all the commands that are available to all the variable types, and it allows it to auto-type. Sometimes it doesn't work. I find at home it works really well, but at school sometimes it bugs it on me. Okay, so here's a lot of the commands I can do for textures. A lot of these I don't know what they do. Set smooth. The red ones I can't use. The green ones are the ones I can use. Get maximum size, get native handle. It usually gives you a little definition. This has to do with OpenGL, which is a 3D graphics library, but we don't need to know that. We're going to actually just go load from file. Okay? It's a function that loads a texture from a file, and what it needs is a string variable with the file name. So, and then you can see it's looking for a string with the file name. It's also looking for this variable type called int rect, but by default it appears that it already equals something that it needs. So the only thing I need to give it this function is the file name. And I called mine, and I need to give it as a string. So I could either make a string variable and set it equal to my file name, or I could just write a string in quotes, image1.png. Okay? And if I run that, it should just do nothing. Now, if I spell the name wrong of my file, or my file is not in the folder of my project, usually it spits an error out. Look at that, failed to load image.png. The other thing you can do is you can actually cout this entire command, and I believe it couts true if it loaded and false if it didn't. So this should write the number 0 on the screen and then give me that message, and it does. And if I cout the command with the proper file name that's in the project folder, let me see, where do I save that? Is that desktop C++, lab 12? Yes, there's my image there. It's pretty big. I'm going to have to shrink it down, but it's going to be bigger than my screen, actually. What's the best way to shrink this down? I might want to shrink it down in like a paint program or something. We'll see. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge in a minute. Okay, so it is running. This should say the number 1. Great. Okay, so I have this texture loaded into my computer, which basically means I just have every single pixel from that image is loaded into this variable, texture1. It's probably going to be a pretty big variable in terms of memory. I'm going to write size of and write texture1 just to see how much information it holds. Keep in mind that float, int, all those variables, they were 4 bytes. And texture is 40. It's actually not that big. Not as big as you would think. It's 10 times bigger than a float. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to write sprite dot, and I want to set the texture that I have loaded into the memory card. So I hit set texture like that, and I just give it the name of a texture variable. The one that I made that I loaded my file to, texture1, and that's it. And I already have my window.drawSprite1, so it should draw that big guy on the screen. There it is. Oh, it didn't actually have the transparent background. I was fooled. The transparent background was a pretend transparent background. Let me go into, I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to where I found that picture. And maybe I'll grab this guy. I'm going to grab this dude instead. File, save image as. I'm just going to, oh, it's a JPEG. I don't want a JPEG. I want a PNG. Let's find a cool one. I like this guy here. Scott Pilgrim. Okay, file, save image as. That's a PNG, great. So I'm going to call this image 1. It's going to write over my zombie guy. Save, yeah, I'll replace it. Okay, so now it should pull this Scott Pilgrim guy up. There it goes. And he's got that nice transparent background. If I want to change my background to white, I actually just do it inside of this clear command. You can actually just pass it the color of that you want to clear your screen to. It'll actually look nicer now that we have Scott Pilgrim on the screen. Great. Okay, so now what we want to do is see if maybe we can shrink that a little bit. Sprite1 dot, I think it's set scale. Yeah, set scale. And you give it 2 numbers. It's just like a fraction, basically. So I want to do like 0.5 in the x and 0.5 in the y. That'll shrink it down by a half. Make it a little smaller for us. There it is. So that's cool. And I can get them to move on the screen now if I wanted to, just like I would with a circle shape or whatever. I could do dot move. And I could even bounce them off the screen. So let's have a look there. There he goes, he moves. Cool. Okay, so that's how you get going on lab 11/12, and we'll figure out how to animate stuff afterwards. If we grab one of these sprite sheets here, we could grab something like this and run through all the pictures and make the guy look like he's animating. This actually is pretty cool, this one, but we'll find something to work with for that. Probably tomorrow, maybe at the end of today. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.